Shalom, Mashpaka. Shalom, my Mashpaka. Worldwide, all 12 tribes. Wherever your feet touch the soil on this yom. Shalom, shalom to you, all 12 tribes. To the elder Ak, Yahudah. To the younger Ak, Ephraim. To the stranger, the Gur, the Goy, the Goyim, the Gentile, who indeed is no longer a Gentile, having thrown down his or her idols, having come out of filthiness, having come out of uncleanness, having been once considered a pig and a swine, a lawless one, but having been drawn out of darkness into the marvelous light of YAHUAH'S by the shed blood of Yahusha, and having been engrafted into the Bayif, or the house of Yashar'AL, through the shed blood of Hamashiach, or Ha-Natsah, the branch, whereby becoming branches, whereby becoming Natsarim. You are no longer considered something unclean, but now whereby having been engrafted through Ha-Natsah and having been cleansed by his shed blood, you are now considered a fellow citizen of Yashar'AL, and whereby now being privy to the same covenants and promise and inheritance that was given to Yashar'AL and to Yashar'AL alone. Shalom, shalom to you worldwide, all 12 tribes. Wherever your feet touch the soil on this yom, shalom, shalom to you worldwide. Mashpaka, Mashpaka, Yahuwah has a message for the remnant of Yashar'AL. He has a message for the remnant of Yashar'AL on this yom. That message is darkness comes. Part 3. What about the remnant? But what about the remnant? A message for the remnant of Yashar'AL. Darkness comes, part 3. But what about the remnant? But what about the remnant? Before we get into this warning and into this message, the disclaimer needs to be made, however, that this message is for the remnant and for the remnant alone. It's not for the masses. It's not for the multitudes. Indeed, Yahuwah is not speaking to the multitudes right now. He's speaking to his remnant. He's speaking to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. He's speaking to those who have humbled themselves in a spirit of meekness and humility, who have bowed themselves down before him, who are laying now on his threshing floor, who are presenting themselves as a living offering on his altar, being set apart and acceptable to him, for this is our reasonable service, and beseeching him to help and strengthen us to not be conformed to this world, but to be renewed by the transforming of our minds, that we may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. And so he's not speaking to the multitudes. He's speaking to the remnant right now. He's speaking to the remnant. And he's going to speak to the multitudes later on. But right now, he is speaking specifically to his remnant, those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, because the multitudes, they're not hearing. And they're not seeing. They're rejecting the message of repentance because they don't think they need to repent. They don't think that they're doing anything wrong. They think that they're fine, so that they don't want to hear the message of repentance spoken through his messengers. They don't want to hear it. They're rejecting it right now. They're calling us liars. They're saying that we're in cults and that we've lost our minds and that we're of the devil. They're the end time scoffers. They're not listening. They're not listening. So this message is not for you. It isn't for you. It's only for the remnant of those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Later on, he's going to deal with you, multitude. Later on, he's going to deal with you. But right now, he's dealing with his remnant. With that said, this message is to the remnant. And to the remnant, he wants to say, we're in a Mu'ad season. We're in a Mu'ad season. In other words, we're in an appointed time. This is an appointed season. This is a season, excuse me, when the proverbial rubber is meeting the road. This is a season where the proverbial rubber has met the road. And you're going to have to make some decisions. You're going to have to make some decisions. You are going to have to bring out a budget sheet, and you're going to have to do some calculations. And you're going to have to do the math and make the determination if whether or not this walk, this narrow walk, is something that you can afford. Because Yahuwah is not some predatory lender. He's not trying to sell you a $300,000 house, understanding and knowing full well that you only make minimum wage. No. He's telling you to go back and sit down with your Aisha and calculate your budget and make the determination of whether or not this walk is something that you can afford. Because if it's not something that you can afford, then perhaps you need to go with the multitude. You need to go with the multitude. Because this walk is going to ask you to give up some things. This walk is going to ask you to give up this world. This walk is going to ask you to turn your back on everything that this world has to offer. Because if any man is a friend of this world, then the love of Yahuwah is not in him. Because everything of this world is of Hashatan. Everything of this dark, fallen world is of Hashatan. It has been reshaped and re-imaged in his image. And so everything of this lost, dark, and defiled world has been reshaped and remolded into his image. And so if you are a friend of this world, then the love of Yahuwah is not in you. And so this walk is going to cause us to turn our backs on this world. Indeed, it's going to cause us to perhaps have to turn our back on friends, to turn our backs on family, to turn our backs on husbands and wives, and to turn our backs on children. It's going to cause us to indeed give up everything, because indeed, if you are not willing to give up everything, then you're not worthy to be his taught one. You're not worthy to be his taught one. And so if Yahuwah is not everything to you, if Yahuwah doesn't mean everything to you, if Yahuwah is not your portion, if he's not your inheritance, if he's not the air you breathe, if he is not the only thing that matters to you in this world, then you need to go with the multitude, because you're not remnant. You're not remnant. And so he's calling his remnant. He's calling his remnant in this season to pull out their budget sheets and to make some calculations and to answer in the affirmative right now of whether or not you can afford this journey, of whether or not you can afford this walk. He's also calling upon this remnant in this season to come out of complacency. This is not a season for complacency. He's calling us forward. He's calling us forward into the fullness of our callings. He's calling us forward into the fullness of our callings, because he needs for us to walk in the fullness of our callings in this season. He's calling us out of complacency. He's calling us to go where we've never gone, to go beyond our physical limitations, to go beyond our flesh. He's calling us to push. He's calling us to pray unlike never before. He's calling us to do what we've never done, to go where we've never gone before, to fast like we've never fasted, to fast longer than we've ever fasted before. He's calling us out of complacency. He's calling us to a different realm in this season. And if you're not willing to go, then you may as well go with the multitudes. You may as well go with the multitude. So nevertheless, this message is for the remnant alone. It's for the remnant alone, in whom Yahuwah is their everything, and not just by their lips. They're not just worshiping him with their lips, and their hearts are from him, keeping the doctrines and commandments of men, or are just worshiping him with their lips and only understanding the letter of Torah, not understanding the spirit of it, because they reject the set-apart spirit, because they reject the Ruach HaKadosh. But no, those who give him the bulls of their lips, the praises of their lips, and whom he owns their hearts, and whom he dwells in their hearts, and whom he is their everything, and nothing else matters. And nothing else matters. This is who he's talking to. This is who he's talking to. And so if this is not you, I'm not telling you to turn off the video, but if this is not you, what I am telling you is that this video isn't for you. It isn't for you. It's only for the remnant. It's only for his remnant, those whom he's talking to in this season, in this Muad season, at this appointed time. With that said, I'm going to begin reading from the beginning, Barashif, which means in the beginning, the book of Genesis, chapter 1. I'm going to read from verse 1 through 18. I'm going to be reading in the ISR, and I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my time with this teaching because it's a very important teaching. I'm going to take my time and allow the Ruach HaKadosh to peel back an onion for us on this Yom so that his remnant receives this message, receives this revelation with absolute clarity, and that they are, as a result, are just not hearers of this message, but become doers and align themselves with the complete will of YAHUAH'S, of YAHUAH'S. And so I'll be reading from the ISR, which is the scriptures translation. I will be replacing some words because some words in the ISR are pagan words, and so I will be replacing them with clean Abrit words. Indeed, the ISR does a good job of using the Abrit tongue, albeit it is modern Abrit. And so even there, I will make an effort to replace the modern Abrit with Paleo Abrit, the original tongue. And I will also make an effort when saying Abrit words, for those who don't understand Abrit, I will make an effort to give you the English filler word in which the Abrit word is replacing. So nevertheless, again, I'm reading from the ISR, and beginning now at verse 1. In the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim. Shamayim is the Abrit word for heavens, and the earth, or Aratz. Earth is the replacement word for the Abrit Aratz. In the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the Aratz. And the Aratz came to be formless and empty, and darkness. And darkness was on the face of the deep. And darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Abrit word here for darkness is the Abrit word kashak. Kashak. And we're going to take a look at this word because it has very significant meaning. It has very significant meaning to the context of what Yahuwah is trying to tell us on this day. And so let's take a look at the Abrit word kashak, which is the Abrit word for the English filler word darkness. Darkness. And it is Strong's Hebrew 2822. 2822. And its meaning is, I need you to listen, the dark, hence literally darkness, figuratively misery, destruction, death, ignorance, sorrow, wickedness, sorrow, wickedness, darkness, night, obscurity, chaos. And so what the Abrit tongue is telling us here is that darkness is synonymous with wickedness. It is synonymous with misery. It is synonymous with chaos. It is synonymous with chaos. So darkness is synonymous with wickedness. Indeed, it is the same as wickedness. It is synonymous with chaos. And it is synonymous with misery. Indeed, it is synonymous with wickedness. It is wickedness. Darkness is wickedness. And so reading this again in the correct context, what the text is trying to tell us here is that in the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the Aratz. And the Aratz came to be formless and empty, and wickedness and evil was on the face of the deep. Was on the face of the deep. Was on the face of the deep. Now, backing up a little bit, I want to bring your attention again, to this translation. I love this translation. I believe it does a very good job, of translating the Abrit tongue and bringing out the text in the correct context. In other words, it's reading as it should read. It's reading as it should read. And so I want to bring back your attention to when it says here, and the earth came to be formless and empty. And the earth, Arats, came to be formless and empty. So in other words, there was a prior state of the Arats where it was not formless and empty and darkness was on it. But because something happened, and we're going to explore that, because something happened, the earth came to be formless and empty, and evil and or darkness came to be on the face of the deep, and evil or darkness was on the face of the deep. Reading on, and the spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, let light. And again, the Abrit word here for light, for the English filler word, is the Abrit word Aor. It is Aleph Ur Rash. Aleph Ur Rash. Aleph Ur Rash. Now, if you speak the Abrit tongue, you understand that Aleph is represented by an ox. It's represented by an ox. And it symbolizes power. It symbolizes power. Ua is represented by a nail or a tent peg. In other words, something used to join, to fix, or to join. And Rosh is represented by head. It means head. It means beginning, hence Barashif. It means head or beginning. And so here we see that the light is being represented by Aur. In other words, we have the joining of power and the head. We have the joining of power, which is Yahuwah, and the head, which is Yahuwah. And so this light, then, we must understand that when he says, let light come to be on day one of creation, that this was before day 4. This was before the Shamash, or sun, the moon, or Chadash, and the Chukabim, or stars, came to be in existence. So this is not light emanating from those lights that he created. This light here in Aor tells us what it is. This is the light, the esteem of Yahuwah, because indeed he is the eternal light. He is the living menorah. He is the eternal light. And so in the Abrit Aor, it tells us who it is. It tells us who and what this light is. The power, the Aleph. Yahuwah is the Aleph and the Tau. He's the beginning and the everlasting covenant. He's the beginning, he's the Aleph and the Tau, the beginning and the everlasting covenant. And so Aor is then telling us who and what this light is. It is the light, the eternal light of Yahuwah. It is the living Torah. It is the living Torah. Indeed, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And as Malak Shalama tells us in Proverbs that Torah is light. And indeed, the Abrit word for light used in the sense of Torah there is again Aor. 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 And so again, and Elohim said, let light, Aor, come to be. Let Aor, let light come to be. Now we understand again that Aor is the light of Yahuwah. It is the esteem of Yahuwah. What is the light of Yahuwah? Is Torah. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Torah is light. And so, again, listening to this word, Aor, it should sound a whole lot like order to you. Order, Aor, because indeed, Torah is order. Torah is order. Because Yahuwah is not the Elohim of confusion, but one of order. but one of order. He is order. He is Torah. He is the living Torah, and Torah is order. It is order. And so here, what Yahuwah is establishing is order out of chaos. Indeed, darkness means chaos. Darkness means misery. Darkness means wickedness or lawlessness. Wickedness or lawlessness. It means wickedness. And so where there is no law, there is disorder. There is chaos. There is lawlessness. There is wickedness. There is wickedness. Because if you have no light to guide you, the Torah, then you're merely groping around in darkness trying to find your way around. Torah is light. It shines light on darkness. It shines light on darkness. It illuminates darkness. It illuminates the darkness in our lives, thus revealing the sin, the darkness in our lives, so that when it's revealed, we can go to the threshing floor and fall on our faces and cry out to the Most High and cry out to YAHUAH'S for forgiveness. Forgive me for saying Most High, because I've recently learned that that's a pagan name, and it represents Zeus. It represents Zeus, so I no longer use Most High. Al-Yun. Al-Yun is the correct abrit. Al-Yun is the correct abrit. So forgive me for saying that. But it causes us then to fall on our faces before YAHUAH'S in the name of Yahusha, because of the darkness that the light has exposed, and confessing and asking for forgiveness so that we receive forgiveness of sin by the offering that was slain before the foundation of Shamayim and Arez. Nevertheless, darkness is wickedness, darkness is evil, darkness is chaos, darkness is misery. The light that was proclaimed in the beginning is the Torah. Is the Torah, is his esteem, his eternal light. And so he was then now establishing order out of chaos here. He's establishing order out of chaos. And he says, let light come to be, and light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. Hear me. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. So here now, he has declared, let there be light to shine in the darkness. To shine in the darkness. And we've established here by the abrit that kashak, or darkness, means wickedness. It means evil. It means chaos. It means misery. And he declares now, let there be light to shine on the darkness. In other words, let there be order out of chaos. Let there be order out of chaos. And then here he declares that light is good. Light is good. Indeed, his word is good. Light is good. There is only righteousness in Yah, because it is declared that Yahuwah is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If any man claims fellowship with him, yet walks in darkness, yet walks in chaos, that walks in lawlessness, that walks in misery, yet walks in wickedness, he lies, and he does not live by the truth. He lies, and he does not live by the truth. Yahuwah will have nothing to do with darkness. He can have nothing to do with darkness. In him is no darkness at all. He is light. He is light. So indeed, he is good. He is good, as Yahusha declares, only the Father is good. He is good. And so light is good because he is light. He is the eternal light. He is light. He is light. So here, he makes the declaration that light is good. But he doesn't make that same declaration with darkness. Why? Because kashak means wickedness. Kashak means wickedness. And so here he makes the declaration that light is good. That light is good. It goes on to read, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. He separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So here we understand then that light is good and darkness is wickedness or evil. So here in the very beginning, Yahuwah makes a separation and a distinction between good and evil. Between good and evil. he makes a separation. And then he calls the light day, which he has previously called good. He called light good. Now he's calling the light day. And so he calls the light day, and then he calls the darkness night. And so in other words, from reading the text, we now understand that day is good and that night is evil. That night is wickedness. Hence, Hashatan is called the prince of darkness, because night is evil, night is wickedness. We're going to get more into this further down in this teaching, but we need to establish that foundation right now. But again, we're going to get further into this further down in this teaching. But this is why many of you who suffer demonic attacks, they happen at night. Many of you have suffered sleep paralysis. Many of you have seen demonic manifestations at night. You've seen dark shadows at night, because the night is evil. The night is wickedness. Again, we're going to unpeel this onion a little bit at a time so that you have complete context and clarity as to what Yahuwah is trying to say, but we're still laying a foundation here. And so far, the foundation has been laid that day is good and night is evil, light is good and darkness is evil. And that in the very beginning, he makes a separation and a distinction between good and evil. He makes a separation or a distinction between good and evil. Indeed, most of these wicked pagans and witches and Satanists and other wicked worshipers of darkness, they conduct their rituals at night. It's usually at night, because the night is evil. The night is evil, and we're going to understand why they do this here momentarily, but we need to lay the foundation that the night is evil. I didn't say it, the text says it. So when you see the literal darkness out, Yahuwah has declared that the night is evil and that the day is good. The text declares it. The text declares it. So I need you to get that context, because it's very important that you get that context. It is imperative that you understand that context, not only for this teaching, but it's imperative that you understand it so that you understand what's coming. So that you understand what's coming. Reading on, it says, and there came to be evening and there came to be morning one day. And Elohim said, let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse Shamayim, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. And Elohim said, let the waters under the Shamayim be gathered together into one place. Again, Shamayim means heavens. And let the dry land appear. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, or Aratz, and the collection of waters he called Yamim, or seas. Now it's important to note here that Elohim called the dry land earth, or Aratz. He does not call some round ball or spear named after the Babylonian sun deity Baal, because round spear or earth is indeed sun worship. The belief in a round earth that it rotates around the sun, indeed, is sun worship. And so the dry land, the earth, is earth. It's not some round ball. The earth is the earth, and the waters are either Yamim, or seas, or Mayim, waters. That's it. It's a flat, plain earth, but this video is not about that. It's not about that. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the third day. Listen. And Elohim said, let lights come to be. Now in the beginning, on the first day, Yahuwah declares, let light come to be. And that word, Adri, is Aor, order. This word here for the English filler word lights is ma'or, ma'or. And so there's a distinction and there's a separation. There's a separation. Again, this is the fourth day. That was the first day. And now he's making the command to let lights come to be on the fourth day. On the fourth day, and this word again is ma'or. Let lights come to be, ma'or, in the expanse, the separation. Again, this video ain't about that, but I have to make this distinction. The expanse is the space between the waters below and the waters above. It is the space between the waters. It is the space. It is the space between the waters. And yeah, they use trickery on you. They use trickery on you, and they talk about outer space and everything being outer space. No, everything indeed is in space, the space between the waters, because here it declares, and let them be for lights in the expanse, the space between the waters. And so now it is impossible to go outer space, because to go outer space, you're going to run into the waters above the space between the waters. You're going to run into waters above the firmament. Nevertheless, this video is not about that, but since I'm reading the text, we have to add that context. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light on the earth. So here again, he establishes that they are to give light on the earth. They are not to give light on some universe. They're not to give light on some universe and other planets. They're to give light on the earth. In other words, they were placed there to serve the earth. They weren't placed there to serve anything else. They were placed there to serve the earth and the earth alone. The earth is all there is. And he has placed the apple, the pupil of his eye, on the earth to govern the earth and the Eretz, which was temporarily usurped by the serpent Hashatan. And that's actually relevant. That's actually relevant. Nevertheless, again, the video is not about that, but we have to speak on that because we're reading the text. And it came to be so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule. The greater light to rule. Now, this is very significant. This is very significant. This is very significant. The greater light to rule. Now, in the beginning of the text, Yahuwah, the text has established that light is good and that night is evil, that darkness is evil, and that in the beginning, Yahuwah established order out of chaos. In other words, Yahuwah made a distinction between good and evil, and then he separated good from evil. And then he separated good from evil. He called the light day, light being good, day being good, night, a kashat, being wickedness. And he made a distinction and made a distinction and separated good from evil. Now we read here that he made two great lights. The greater light to rule the day. The greater light to rule the day. Now we've already established, so I haven't established anything. The scriptures have established that the day is good. That the day is good. So what's the significance then? If the day is good, or the day being good, what is significance of the greater light that he is created to rule the day? To unravel this onion a little bit further, let's look at the Abrit word for rule. It is the Abrit word mamshalah. Mamshalah. It is spelled Mamshalah. 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 Let's look at the meaning of this word of mamshalah. And it is Strong's Hebrew 4475. And it means rule. Also concretely in plural, listen, a realm or a ruler. A realm or a ruler. Dominion, government, power, to rule. And so here now we have the understanding with the Abrit Mamshalah that we're talking here now about two different realms, two different dominions, light and darkness, good and evil. And he created the greater light, which is the Shamash, the sun, to rule the day. This is very significant because we understand, I don't know if you understand, but if you don't, Yahuwah wants you to understand that the sun is the representation of the eternal light. It is not the eternal light, but it is the representation of the eternal light. Hence, it is placed in the day which Yahuwah has called good to rule the realm of light. To rule the realm, the dominion of light. I need you to get that. The realm, the dominion of light. Indeed, this is why in the Babylonian religions that have affected this whole world, indeed, this whore has tentacles in all nations. This is why Babylonian worship is centered around sun worship, where Nimrud is worshipped as the sun, where Tammuz is worshipped as the resurrected sun, and Hashatan getting the worship through them. Because indeed, he wants to be worshipped as YAHUAH'S. Indeed, in accordance with Isaiah, the 14th chapter, he desires to place his throne above Al-Yun, above YAHUAH'S, and to be worshipped as YAHUAH'S. And so in Babylon, and through religion, he is being worshipped as the sun, the representation of the eternal light. The representation of the eternal light. Nevertheless, we're talking here now about two different realms. The realm of light or good and the realm of darkness. The realm of darkness and our evil. The realm of darkness and our evil. Two different realms. Two different supernatural realms. I need you to get that. Two different supernatural realms. Light and darkness, good and evil. Two different realms. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule Mamshalah the day, and the lesser light to rule Mamshalah the night. To rule Mamshalah the night. So again, the same word, Mamshalah, here used to represent rule, which represents realm, which represents ruler, which represents dominion. Dominion. So Yahuwah is trying to show us that two different realms, two different dominions are at work, are at play. Good and evil, light and darkness are at play. And it goes on to say the Kukabim, and the Kukabim, and the Kukabim. So reading again, and Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars are the Kukabim, and the Kukabim. Why is that significant? Why is that significant? Why is Kukabim significant? Again, I pray that you understand right now that we're talking about two different realms. That we're talking about two different realms. Two different realms. The realm of good and the realm of evil. The realm of light and the realm of darkness. And he separated in the very beginning those realms. He separated light from darkness, good from evil. But where did the evil come from? Because there is no evil in him. There is no darkness in him. So where did it come from? As we read in the beginning, in this text, in this translation, that the earth came to be formless and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. So in its prior state, it wasn't formless and empty, and there was no darkness on it. There was no darkness on it. So what happened? What happened? Before we get to that, let's look at the Abrit word kukab for stars. Stars is another pagan word. It is reminiscent of Astarte, And so I prefer to use the word kukab in the singular form, or kukabim in the plural form. Nevertheless, listen, its meaning is the sense of rolling, or in the sense of blazing a star as round or as shining, figuratively a prince. And so again, We're talking about rulers and dominions and realms. We're talking about rulers and dominions and realms. And realms. And realms. And so there is a distinction between day and night. These are two different realms. These are two different realms, two different dominions. Two different dominions. And so looking at Kukab or Kukabim, which means prince, in the Abrit, which means Shar, and princess in the Abrit is Shara. Shara, this is Abraham's wife. Shara is actually Shara and not Sarah. It's Shara and not Sarah. Nevertheless, this is significant because when Yahuwah spoke to Abraham, he told him that his descendants were going to be innumerable as the stars, as the Kukabim in Shamayim, And that word there in Genesis is the word Shar. The word Shar. In other words, he's telling Abraham that his descendants were going to be rulers. Indeed, the word Yashar'AL means rule with Elohim. It means prince of Elohim. His children, his prince, his seed, when the Arats are restored, are going to rule with him. Because the rulership, the reign of the Arats is going to be restored to Adam, mankind. It's going to be restored to mankind when he restores everything. And so we're once again going to rule. And we will once again be a prince, a shar. And so I say that to add context to show that a prince here, a kukab, it is denoting rulership. It is denoting principality. And now then, you should have the understanding that if it denotes rulership and it denotes principality, that kukabs, or kukabim, they need the darkness. You don't see kukab, or what they call stars, or kukabim, out during the daytime. You see them out at night. They were given rulership over the night. This is why you see them at night. And so we need to understand this in the context of rulership and principality. We also need to understand this before I go any further. A day to Yahuwah is 1,000 years. A day to Yahuwah is 1,000 years. And so with that understanding, it is my belief that the creation week was 7,000 years. And that after the creation week, he gave us an additional 7,000 years. He gave mankind an additional 7,000 years. Actually, he's given us more than 7,000 years. He's given us 6 days or 6,000 years to work. And on the 7th day or 7,000 year, it's going to be a Shabbat rest to Yahuwah for 1,000 years, for a day. At the end of that 1,000 year, on the 8,000th year or the 8th day or the last great day, time will end. This will be the last great day. This is Simchat Torah. This is when the booth or the dwelling place of Yahuwah is going to come down and make its abode with the sons of men. Nevertheless, it is my belief that creation week was actually 7,000 years and not in the sense of a day in which we believe. And so with that being said, that first day, from the first day to the 4th day, was a span of 4,000 years. This is significant in understanding then where the darkness came from. This is very significant in understanding where the darkness came from. And we're going to continue to peel back this onion now in Revelation chapter 12. Reading here from verse 1, I'm going to read it in its entirety. It reads, "And a great sign was seen in the Shamayim, a woman clad with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars, and on her head a crown of 12 rulers. of 12 rulers. You should understand, if you, the remnant who are listening to this video, that this woman is Yashar'AL, and the 12 stars, or the 12 Kukabim, are the 12 tribes of Yashar'AL, the rulers with Elohim, the prince of Elohim. Hence, it is spoken in the language here as a crown of 12 stars, as a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the Shamayim, and see a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. A great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his head. And his tail draws a third of the Kukabim, or stars, of the Shamayim, and thrown them to the earth. So, again, now we understand what the stars are. These are principalities. These are rulers, and they need the darkness to rule, because Yahuwah made a distinction in the very beginning between darkness and light, good and evil, and they come out at night. Indeed, the freaks come out at night. They need the darkness to rule. But what does that have to do with this season? Well, it has a lot to do with this season, because indeed, darkness is coming. Darkness is coming. But we understand now here that the stars were created on the 4th day. On the 4th day. But in this text, it says that a great fiery red dragon appeared, and its tail drew a third of the Kukabim with him. It does not it does not equate Hashatan, and we understand that the great fiery red dragon is Hashatan. It does not equate him or categorize him as a star or a Kukab. It does not categorize him that way, because it is my belief that he was created before them. He was created before them. And it is my belief that he is the reason for darkness. And we're going to continue to pull back this onion. We're going to continue to peel back this onion, but it is my belief that he is the reason for darkness. He is the reason for darkness. Nevertheless, he is not equated with them. He is not equated with them. So it reads here that his tail drew a third of them from the Shamayim in the rebellion. His tail drew a third of them from the Shamayim in the rebellion and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now I'm going to read this. I'm going to address some things in it, and then I'm going to come back to it and address some things, because there's some very relevant things in this with respect to the remnant. There's some very relevant text, very relevant words in this text with respect to the remnant that I'm going to address later on, but not right now. We're still talking about the coming darkness and why darkness must come, because they have dominion over it. If you don't understand that by now, they have dominion over the reign, over the realm of darkness, over the dominion, the realm of darkness. They have dominion over it. And so this is when they are at their most active. This is when they are at their most powerful, because they have been given dominion over it. There is a separation between two different realms, the realm of light and the realm of darkness. And here we're reading that the dragon, the fiery red dragon, great red dragon, drew a third of the principalities, Kukabim, with him. Principalities with him. Principalities simply meaning ruler. We see, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It reads here, and throws them down to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she bore a male child who was about to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there 1,260 days. And there came to be fighting in the Shamayim. Michael, commonly called Michael, and his messengers fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his messengers fought, but they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the Shamayim any longer. Listen, listen, in the Shamayim any longer. Any longer. I need you to hear. I need you to understand this. And we're gonna add some context to this. A place was not found for them in the Shamayim any longer. We understand what the Shamayim is, the heavens. There was not a place, and there are 7 heavens. There is not a place found for them in the Shamayim any longer. We're going to address this momentarily. And a great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. We're going to address this momentarily. I need to read some more scriptures because I don't want to get ahead of myself. And I heard a loud voice saying in the Shamayim, now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim and the authority of the Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, who accused them before our Elohim day and night, has been thrown down. Has been thrown down. As you recall in the first chapter of Job, or YAHUAH'S, he was before the throne of Yah, accusing the brethren. He was there to accuse the brethren after coming to and fro across the whole earth. And Yahuwah asked them, what about his servant Ayub? He was there to accuse Yahusha, the Kahan Gadol, or Gadol, in other words, high priest, when he was standing there before Yahuwah wearing dirty garments. So he's accusing. He's still accusing. I need you to understand this context. He is still the accuser. He is still the accuser who accused them before. So we're still talking in the present tense. What we're reading here is a future tense in terms of him being thrown down. That's what I need you to understand. We're talking a future tense of him being thrown down. And we're going to add more context. And being who accused them before Elohim day and night has been thrown down. I need you to understand he hadn't been thrown down to the earth yet. He hasn't been thrown down to the earth yet. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness. And they did not love their lives to death. Because of this, rejoice, O Shamayim, and you who will dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing his time, knowing he has little time. Knowing he has little time. What Yahuwah needs you to understand, Mashpaka, is that the Hashatan has not been thrown down to the earth yet. He's not come down to the earth. He is still called the prince of the power of the air. He is in the lower Shamayim. There are 7 Shamayims. He is in the lower Shamayim, and he is still the accuser of the brethren. He has not come down to the Arach yet. Another example, another precept of this is when we read the 9th or 10th chapter of Daniel, when Daniel was praying and fasting for 21 days, and a messenger came to him with a word from Yahuwah and said to him that from the very first day that he turned his face to pray, that Yahuwah sent him. But sent him with an answer. But for 21 days, he was upheld by the prince of Persia. He was upheld by the prince of Persia. He was upheld by a principality, one of these ruling messengers that Hashatan drew when it says that he drew a third of the Kokabim with him. One of these ruling messengers. So I need you to understand that they have not come down to the earth yet. But they are. But they are. When a time of darkness comes, when their dominion comes, his dominion, his reign is coming. A physical reign of darkness is coming upon this earth. He is going to have a physical reign of darkness upon this earth when Hashatan is going to descend, and he is going to occupy the body of a man whom we know as the beast. Whom we know as the beast, whom it says in the text, and we're going to read that momentarily in Hazum 13, whom the dragon gives him his power, and whom the whole world is going to worship. You see, this is the beast's reign. This is Hashatan's reign, and this reign cannot come without darkness, because they need darkness, because this is their dominion. It was given to them from the very beginning. But they have not come down yet, but they are coming down. This is what Yahuwah needs you to understand. They are coming down and chaos and darkness and destruction and misery and wickedness is coming to this earth. But what about the remnant? What about the remnant? What about the remnant? Darkness is coming. They need it to come because that's their realm. That's their dominion. They need it to rule. They need it to rule and to govern with complete autonomy. And it's coming. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the child. And we understand that this is Yashar'AL. We understand that this is Yashar'AL. We're going to come back to this. We need to come back to this. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we understand that this is Yashar'AL. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half time from the presence of the serpent. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman, to cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman. Listen, was enraged with the woman because he couldn't get to her. And he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. That's interesting. We're going to talk about it. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yahushua HaMashiach. And we're going to come back to Revelation 12 here momentarily. We're going to come back to Revelation 12 here momentarily. But now we're going to understand, before we go back there, where darkness comes from. And so that further context is added so that you understand why darkness must come and why darkness is coming. Why darkness is coming and why Hashatan is still to be thrown down to the earth, where he's going to occupy the body of a man whom I believe, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're going to come back to that as well. We're going to look at that a little bit further below. I want to stay in context and I want to stay on schedule, peeling this onion back surface by earth by surface. So reading now from the 13th chapter of the Forgotten Books of Adam and Kuah. Reading now from the 13th chapter of the Forgotten Books of Adam and Kuah. I'm going to read verse 1 through 8, and we're going to understand now where darkness comes from, where that darkness came from that was on the earth in the beginning. Then when Elohim, who was compassionate and full of pity, heard Adam's voice, he said unto him, O Adam, so as long as the good messenger was obedient to me, a bright light rested on him and on his host. And when he transgressed my covenant, I deprived him of that bright nature, and he became dark. And he became dark. And when he was in the Shamayim, in the realms of light, again, we understand with the Abrit Mamshalah, that word establishes that there are 2 realms at work, a realm of light and a realm of darkness. And we understand again in the first chapter of Barashit that this is what happened, that Yahuwah was separating the realm of darkness from the realm of light. He was separating good and evil. Nevertheless, it reads in verse 4, and when he was in the Shamayim, in the realms of light, he knew not of darkness. He knew not of darkness. But he transgressed, and I made him fall from Shamayim upon the earth. And it was this darkness that came upon him. And O Adam, while in my garden, and obedient to me, did that bright light rest also. And when I heard of thy transgression, I deprived thee of that bright light. Yet of my compassion I did not turn thee into darkness. I did not turn thee into darkness. Hashatan is darkness. He returned into darkness. Yahuwah, in the realm of light, there is no darkness. Hashatan was the first to be turned dark. He was the first to be turned dark. Hence, he needs darkness. That's his realm. That's his realm. Hence, again, darkness is coming, part 3. But what about the remnant? But what about the remnant? What about the remnant? But when I heard of thy transgression, I deprived thee of that bright light. Yet of my compassion I did not turn thee into darkness. But I made thee thy body of flesh, over which I spread this skin, in order that it may bear cold and heat. If I had let my wrath fall heavily upon thee, I should have destroyed thee, and had turned thee into darkness. And had turned thee into darkness. It would have been as if I killed thee. It would have been as if I killed thee. Nevertheless, darkness is coming, and here is scriptural precedence that darkness indeed is coming. In the book of Yashar'AL, Isaiah chapter 5, verse 30, it has to come again for the reign of darkness to rise, for the reign of darkness to rule, for the reign of darkness to rule and govern with complete autonomy. It has to take place. Darkness must come. But what about the remnant? Yashar'AL, Isaiah, the 5th chapter, verse 30. And in that day they shall growl over it as with the growling of the sea. And one shall look at the earth and see darkness and distress. Darkness and distress. Distress is also synonymous with darkness. And see darkness and distress, and light shall be darkened by the clouds. And light shall be darkened by the clouds. Yashar'AL, the 8th chapter, Isaiah, the 8th chapter, verse 20 through 22. It reads here, to the Torah and the witness, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because they have no light. It's because they have no light. And we understand that Torah is light. Torah is light. And if one speaks not accordance with Torah, he speaks darkness, because only Torah is light. If they don't speak according to that word, then they speak darkness and wickedness. And they shall pass through it hard pressed and hunger, and they shall pass through it hard pressed and hungry or famished. And it shall be when they are hungry or famished, because famine indeed is coming. It's coming. Read Revelation 6, Hazum 6, in addition to other places. It's coming. And they shall be wroth and curse their sovereign and their Elohim, looking upward. This is also in the book of Hazum. And they shall look to the earth and see, listen, distress and darkness, gloom of hard times, and be driven into thick darkness. And be driven into thick darkness. Yashar'AL, Isaiah, the 60th chapter, verse 1 through 3, it reads here, arise, shine, for your light is come, and the esteem of Yahuwah has risen upon you. For look, darkness covers the earth. For look, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness the people. But Yahuwah arises over you, and his esteem is seen upon you. And the nations shall come to your light, and sovereigns to the brightness of your rising. Now this speaks to the time after the period of darkness when Yahusha returns. This speaks to the time after the period of darkness when Yahuwah returns. And it reads, and the nations shall come to your light, and sovereigns to the brightness of your rising. Nevertheless, in the previous words, it read that darkness is coming. I'm going to read it again. Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the esteem of Yahuwah has risen upon you. For look, distress covers the earth, and thick darkness the people. But Yahuwah arises over you, and his esteem is upon you. So indeed, this is the period after the period of darkness. This is the period after the period of darkness. So again, darkness is coming. Darkness is coming, but the question remains, what about the remnant? What about the remnant? What Yahuwah needs you to understand is this, remnant. A few days ago, he spoke to me and he said, the living water is going to be turned off. The living water is going to be turned off. I could see a faucet being turned off. Now we understand that water is synonymous with spirit. Water is spirit. Hence those who Believe in the Hamashiach. Out of their innermost beings, out of their belly shall flow rivers of living water. And this speaks to the set-apart spirit. This speaks to the Ruach HaKadosh. So water is spirit. We understand that the Hebrew, the Abrit word for water is mayim. We understand that the letter that the first letter of mayim is the Abrit letter mam. It is represented by water. And so wherever you see the Abrit letter mam, it is representative of spirit. It is representative of spirit, because as nothing on earth can live without water, nothing on earth can live without spirit. Nothing on earth can live without spirit. If Yahuwah removes his breath, if he removes his ruach, if he removes his spirit, no life can live. No life can live. I need you to understand, though, that here he's not talking about in the context of removing our breath, but he's talking in the context of removing his presence from the earth, of removing his set-apart spirit, of removing his ruach, of turning the water off. And I could see a faucet being turned. He's in the midst. He's getting ready to turn off the faucet, to turn off the living water. His word was, the living water is going to be turned off. A few days later, he spoke to my Aisha. And he spoke through her. He told her to declare to the masses to seek him while he may be found. To seek him while he may be found. To seek him while he may be found. We're at a point. We're at a muad season. We're at the point where the rubber meets the road. We're at a point where Zion, you can play no more games. You have to, this time, this season, make your calling and election sure. You have to make those calculations in that budget sheet to make the determination if this is something that you can afford. And if this is something that you can afford, you have to have the mindset that you're going to have to give up some things. And in this season, you're going to have to go where you haven't gone before. You have to push beyond the point where you've ever pushed. You're going to have to fast. You're going to have to pray. You're going to have to do what you've never done. Go where you've never gone. You're going to have to push beyond in this season. Because this is a muad season where he's getting ready to turn the water off. And we must seek him while he may be found. But what he wants you to understand is that before the reign of darkness can be resurrected, before the reign of darkness can come upon the earth, before it can come upon the earth, something must happen. Something must happen. And what you need to understand is that it is the Spirit who restrains. It is the Spirit who now currently restrains the reign of darkness from coming upon this earth and reigning and ruling in complete autonomy, as he spoke to me that he's going to turn the water off. He's going to turn the water off. Without water, there's dryness. There's infertility. There is dryness. There is no life. Nothing can live without water. Nothing can live without spirit. Nothing can live without it. And so where there is no water, there is dryness. And thus, we understand now that it is the Spirit who restrains. It is the light that restrains, because Yahuwah is light and Yahuwah is Ruach. And if Yahuwah is light and Yahuwah is Ruach, then we understand that the Ruach is light because he is Yahuwah. And so it is the light that restrains. Do you understand? It is the light that restrains the darkness. It is the light that restrains the darkness. Once he removes his spirit, once he removes the light, once he turns the water off, then the reign of darkness can come and have complete autonomy over this earth. And if those days are not shortened, no flesh will remain. It is nevertheless the Torah that restrains. It is the Torah that restrains. We already see the Torah being removed from the earth because many won't listen. It's still here. But the majority of this earth will not take heed, will not listen to Yah's righteous Torah, because they've been taught lies to understand that the Torah, that we're no longer under the Torah, and they've been lied to, and they're on a road to destruction. It is Torah that restrains. It is Torah that gives light, because Torah is light. It is the light that restrains darkness. Where there is light, there can be no darkness. There can be no darkness. But we're talking now about a time when light is removed. Look at your skies. Look at the chemtrailings. Look at them trying to block out the sun, and understand what's happening. Understand what CERN is trying to do with breaking through that veil into the outer darkness, into the pit of Yashar'AL, and to bring in darkness to the earth. Oh yeah, they broke through, and they know how. They know how. Darkness is coming, but it can't come until the light is removed. And Yahuwah has spoken to his servant that he's going to turn the water off. And he's spoken to my wife that we must seek him while he may be found. While he may be found. Again, it is the light that restrains. It is water that restrains. It is the spirit that restrains. And if it is moved out of the way, then darkness can abide, or can abound. Then darkness can abound, because without light, without Torah, there is lawlessness and chaos. Indeed, darkness is synonymous with darkness and chaos. Darkness is synonymous with wickedness and evil and lawlessness. So without Torah, without light, there is lawlessness and chaos. And you see the beginnings of it even now, as less and less Torah is being promulgated across the earth. You see it now. You see the lawlessness and the chaos that is abounding upon the earth. And you see that the hearts of many have waxed cold as less and less Torah is being proclaimed. Indeed, without Torah, there is lawlessness and chaos. And so when the light is removed, lawlessness and chaos and darkness, physical darkness, is going to abound. And he indeed has spoken that he is going to turn the water off. He is going to turn the water off. There will be darkness because there will be no light. Indeed, literal darkness is coming upon the earth. Chaos is coming upon the earth, and he's getting ready to turn the water off. But what will you do, remnant? What will you do? Will you seek him? Will you set aside every sin that so easily besets you? Will you turn your back to this filthy, wicked world? Are you willing to give up family? Are you willing to give up husband and wife and children and friends? Are you willing to turn your back on everything that this world has to offer for the sake of the reign, for the sake of being remnant? Are you willing? If you're not, you may as well go to the multitudes. You may as well go with the multitudes, because this isn't for you. If Yahuwah isn't the only thing that matters to you, then this message isn't for you. This message isn't for you, but it will come upon you. It isn't for you, but it will come upon you. But if what will you do, remnant, with this? What will you do? What will you do? Nevertheless, we see a precept of this in the book of Barashif, where it reads, in the book of 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, verse 6 through 8, 2 Thessalonians, verse 6 through 8, and it reads, and now you know what restrains. Now you know what restrains. It is light that restrains darkness. It is the spirit that restrains darkness. It is the water that restrains darkness. It is the water that restrains. And he's getting ready to turn it off. And you know what restrains, for him to be revealed in his time. For the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of the mist. Only until he who now restrains comes out of the mist. He is the Ruach. He is Yahuwah. He is Torah. He is the light. When the light comes up out of the mist, when the spirit comes up out of the mist, then darkness will consume the earth, and the reign of darkness will have complete autonomy. And he has spoken to his servant that he is getting ready to turn the water off. But what will you do, remnant? What will you do? And then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and bring to naught unto the manifestation of his coming. We read here in Barashif of Genesis, the 6th chapter, verse 1 through 3, just to give you precedence and just to give you a precept to him removing his spirit, because he will do it, and he has done it before. And Genesis, the 6th chapter, verse 1 through 3, we read here, and it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, Ararat, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were good. And they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And Yahuwah said, my spirit shall not strive with men forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. To give you a little context about this, Yahuwah at this time had become frustrated with mankind. Mankind was more wicked than it had ever become. But indeed, this generation is even more wicked. And before this season is over, during the time of Noach, it's going to pale in comparison to this season. In comparison to this season. Nevertheless, we understand that here 200 watchers had left their dominion, had left their realm. They were given the assignment of watching over mankind. They were given the assignment of watching over us and protecting us against Hashatan and against the third of his messengers that were with him. They were given the assignment to watch over us and protect mankind against them. But instead of keeping their assignment, they left their assignment, their abode, and they landed on Mount Hermon, and they took wives for themselves, all of their choosing, and they slept with them, and the produce of them were Nephilim, men of renown, men of great size, were giants. There were giants in those days. These are the fathers of the giants. These are the fathers of the giants, and the earth then had become corrupt. Many texts declare, including the traditional 66, that all flesh had become corrupt. That all flesh had become corrupt. And so now here, Yahuwah gives mankind 120 years before he removes his spirit. He gives them 120 years before he removes his spirit. And in 120 years, he gives the assignment to Noach and Methuselah to proclaim the word of repentance, to proclaim the message of repentance to the rebellious sons of men for 120 years. He gave them 120 years to repent, preach through Noach and Methuselah. You will find this in the book of Yashar'AL. Nevertheless, another precept here we read in Matthew, the 12th chapter, verse 43 through 45. It reads here, now when the unclean spirit, and this has to do with him turning off the water. This has to do with him turning off the water. Now when the unclean spirit comes out of a man, he goes through dry places. He goes through dry places because unclean spirits are synonymous with death. They're synonymous with dryness. They are synonymous with thirst, of dying of thirst. Indeed, they are dead. And so where there is wetness, where there is fertility, where there is the ruach, they cannot dwell. There must be a dry vessel, absent of the ruach, absent of water, in order for them to dwell. Indeed, he's going to turn the water off. He's going to turn the water off. And indeed, in the book of Hazon, I believe in the 9th chapter, it declares that a messenger, a great messenger, is going to be thrown down to Shaul with the key to the bottomless pit, and he's going to open it up. He's going to open it up, and the smoke is going to rise from the pit, and that smoke is going to darken out the sun. And demons are going to rise from the pit. You see, if you're not one who believes in the apocryphal scriptures, then you're doing yourself a terrible disservice, because it tells us in the book of Jubilees that there is a knife of the wicked spirits, and wicked spirits are the disembodied spirits of the giants, the offspring of the watchers. When the floodwaters came upon them and they died, they're disembodied spirits of what we call wicked spirits and are demons. But after the flood, all of them were still remaining on the earth. They're disembodied spirits. They're wicked spirits. These demons were still upon the earth, and they began to torment mankind. And then the sons of Noah came to him and asked him to pray to Yahuwah to remove these wicked spirits from the earth, Noach indeed prayed to Yahuwah to remove these wicked spirits from the earth, and Yahuwah inclined to his prayer. But Mastema, I don't even like saying his name. This is the name of Hashatan. This is the name of Hashatan. He went before Yahuwah and begged him to leave a tenth of them with him, or leave some of them rather, with him, so that he could exact his will on mankind, because they were indeed wicked. And Yahuwah indeed listened to him and left some of them to him to rule. And a tenth of them were left to him, and a ninth part of them were locked up in the pit. But a messenger is coming to unlock the pit, and the ninth of them is going to join the tenth of them that are already here when the time of dryness comes. When the time of dryness comes, when he removes the water, when he turns off the water, when he removes the light. It nevertheless reads, and when the unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places seeking rest and finds none. Then it says, I shall return to my house from which I came, and when it comes, it finds it empty, swept, and decorated. Then he goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last of the man is worse than the first. And the last of the man is worse than the first. Listen, so shall it be. So shall it also be with this wicked generation. With this wicked generation. That's Nabuah. That's prophecy. So shall it be with this wicked generation. I need you to get this. He needs you to get this. Yahuwah needs you to get this warning that he's going to turn the water off. And darkness is coming. He's going to remove the light. And darkness indeed is coming. He is going to remove the Ruach. Listen to me. He is going to remove his Ruach, and with it, those having his Ruach and those operating in Ruach and in truth. He's going to remove his remnant. He's going to remove his remnant. Ah, yeah, what about the remnant? He is going to remove the remnant. He is going to remove the remnant. Here is precepts. In our zone of Revelation, the 3rd chapter, verse 7 through 13, we read, and a messenger of the assembly in Philadelphia write, he who is set apart, he who is true, he who has the key of Dawood, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens, says this, I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one is able to shut it. That you have little power, yet you have guarded my word. Yet you have guarded my word, irrespective of the ridicule, irrespective of the taunts, irrespective of you losing family, irrespective of you being told that you're crazy, that you're strange, that you're in a cult, irrespective of that, you having little power, yet you have guarded my word, you who have turned your back on everything, who have turned your back on this world, who are constantly shedding away every sin that so easily besets you. Some of you are even have turned your back on family and friends and children. Those of you who have little power yet have guarded my word and have not denied my name. See, I am giving up those of the congregation of Satan who say that they are Yahudim and are not, but lie. See, I am making them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you, because you have guarded my word of endurance. I also guard you from the hour of trial. Listen, I also guard you from the hour of trial, the time of darkness, which shall come upon all the world, to try those who dwell on the earth. See, I am coming speedily. Hold what you have, that no one takes your crown. He who overcomes, I will make him a supporting post in the dwelling place of my Elohim. And he shall by no means go out. And I shall write on him the name of my Elohim and the name of the city of my Elohim, the renewed Jerusalem, which comes down out of the Shamayim from my Elohim, and my renewed name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says to the assemblies. So who is this? Who is this remnant that he is going to keep or protect from the hour of trial? Who is this remnant? Who are those? Who are those who have turned their backs on this world? Who are those that Yahuwah is their portion and their inheritance, and he is all that matters to them? Who are they? In Hazun, Revelation, the 7th chapter, verse 1 through 8, we understand who they are. And after this, I saw 4 messengers standing in the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Elohim. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Elohim upon their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000, sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yashar'AL. Sealed out of all of the tribes of the children of Yashar'AL. Of the tribe of Yehudah, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Shamaun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Louis, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zabulon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Yahusah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. 12,000 were sealed. Before I read the next witness, I'm going to go back up now to Hazun, the 12th chapter. To Hazun, the 12th chapter. So that you understand who this remnant is. Who the 144,000 is. Who the 144,000 is. So reading again in Hazun, the 12th chapter, we read here, and a great sign was seen in the Shamayim, a woman clad with the sun, with the Shamash, and with the Kadash, the moon, under her feet, and her head a crown of 12 kukabim, or stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the Shamayim, and a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his head. And his tail draws a third of the kukabim of the Shamayim and throws them to the Arats. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. And her child was a male child, and who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. Again, we understand that this is Yashar'AL, that this is Zion, and the 12 stars of Kukabim represent the 12 tribes of Yashar'AL. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne, and we understand that this is Yahusha. And the woman fled into the wilderness. Listen. And the woman fled into the wilderness. And the woman fled into the wilderness. Now here, we're only talking about a remnant Zion. We're not talking about the whole house of Yashar'AL. I know you've been taught that the whole house of Yashar'AL is going into the wilderness, but that's not true. That's not true. And Scripture is going to prove that. I'm not going to have to prove a thing. Scripture is going to prove itself. It's going to prove itself. Nevertheless, there's only a remnant that's going into the wilderness. There's only a remnant that's going into the wilderness. Only the remnant of Yashar'AL is going into the wilderness. And it reads, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished, hear me, to be nourished there 1,260 days, and or 3.5 years. 3.5 years, when all hell is going to break loose on the Arats. When the reign of darkness is going to have complete autonomy on the Arats, the woman has a place safe in the wilderness where she is nourished, the remnant of Yashar'AL, their 1,260 days. But what will you do about this remnant? And there came to be fighting in the Shamayim. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon. And the dragon and its messengers fought, but they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the Shamayim any longer. Again, they are still now in the lower Shamayim. They are in the lower Shamayim. They are not, well, once upon a time, Hashatan was a Kahan, was Kahan Gadol of Yahuwah. He walked on the stones of fire, but on the very mountain of Yahuwah, in the presence of Yahuwah. But he was thrown out, and he is now in the lower Shamayim. Hence he is the prince of the power of the air. And hence we read in the story of Daniel, I believe the 9th or 10th chapter, about the prince of Persia. And after that, he talks about the prince of Greece. He's talking about principalities. They're still in the lower Shamayim. They're not down on the earth yet. They're not on the earth yet. For 3.5 years, for 3.5 years in a reign of darkness, of complete darkness, they are going to rule and govern this Eretz. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would remain. And it reads here, during that time, the woman has a place prepared for 3.5 years. And the dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the Shamayim, now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign and to our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, and we've already talked about this with respect to Job or Ayub and Yahusha, commonly called Yehoshua or Joshua, the high Kohan Gadol in Zechariah chapter 3, who accused him before Elohim day and night, has been thrown down. He ain't thrown down yet. He's still the prince of the power of the air. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. Who is they? Who are they? We're going to talk about that later. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness. And they did not love their lives to death. Because of this, be glad, O Shamayim, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has now come down. His reign has been erected, where he's going to rule in the body of a man, of the beast, bearing the number 666, having great wrath, knowing that he has little time, 3.5 years at this point, knowing that he has little time. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman, Yashar'AL, Zion, who gave birth to the male child. And the woman was given 2 wings, the remnant. The remnant. This is the remnant, and this is going to become clear here momentarily. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness, into the desert, to her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times and a half, and a time 3.5 years, from the presence of the serpent. From the presence of the serpent. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman, after the remnant of Yashar'AL. After the remnant of Yashar'AL, 144,000. To cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman. He was enraged with the remnant, with the 144,000 who are now safe in the wilderness. And he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. He couldn't overcome her, who's safe in the wilderness, who Yahuwah is fighting for. And so now he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, with the multitude, with the multitude. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahusha Messiah. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Messiah. Now we're going to address this further. We're going to address this further. We've already read Hazum 7. Actually, I'm going to read it again before I move into the next text. And after this, I saw 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Elohim. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Elohim upon their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000, sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yashar'AL, the remnant that is going into the wilderness. Of the tribe of Yehudah, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Shemaun, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Lui, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Zabulon, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Yahusaph, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. We turn now to Hazun, the Revelation, the 14th chapter, verse 1 through 5, and it reads, beginning at verse 1. And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, hallelujah, Yahuwah, and with him 144,000 having his father's name written upon their foreheads. And I heard a voice out of Shamayim like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of a loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing with harps. And they sang a renewed song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth, who were redeemed from the earth, who went into the wilderness, those who were protected from the time of trial. They are those who were not defiled with women. They are those who are not giving up the cookies to foreign mighty ones. They're not bowing down and worshiping foreign mighty ones. The Torah is their love. The Torah is their light. Yahusha is their husband. They follow the voice of their husband as obedient Aishas wherever he leads them. And they turn not neither to the right nor to the left. They're not afraid to give up this world. They're constantly shedding every sin that so easily besets them. They're pushing beyond where they've never pushed before. They're going where they've never gone before. They're going where the voice of Yahuwah leads them. And they're not being compromised for anything or anyone in this world. They are maidens. They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads them on. They were redeemed from among men, being the fruits, the first fruits to Elohim and the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Elohim. For they are blameless before the throne of Elohim. And so we understand here that there's only a remnant going into the wilderness, as in Hazon 12. In this precept, we read that when the dragon cannot overcome the remnant, the 144,000 that are kept from the time of trial, that he's going to turn then and go to persecute the remnant of the woman's seed. He's going to go to persecute the remnant of the woman's seed, those keeping the commands of Yahuwah and having the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. We find a witness here in Yashar'AL, the 20th chapter, verse 35 through 38. And here's where most people think that all of the house of Yashar'AL is going into the wilderness, but that's not so. And we're going to prove that. The text, the scriptures is going to prove that the whole house of Yashar'AL is not going into the wilderness. In Yashar'AL, the 20th chapter, verse 35 through 38, we read, And I shall bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there, as I entered into the judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mizraim. So shall I enter into judgment with you, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall make you pass under the rod, and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant, and bring the rebels from among you. The rebels are those, this is whom the adversary turned when he couldn't overcome the woman in the wilderness. The rebels are those that he turns towards. The rebels are those that he turns towards. And purge the rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me. From the land where they sojourn I bring them out, but they shall not come into the land of Yashar'AL, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Indeed, not all that the adversary persecutes that 3.5 years are coming into the land. Another witness in Yashar'AL, Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, verse 1 through 23. It reads here, And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog, of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Mashach, and Tubal, and the Nabuah against him, and you shall say, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against you. And I'm reading this because most people believe that this is during the millennial reign, but it's not during the millennial reign. This is during the end times, during the latter days. This is not during the end times, and it's going to become abundantly clear, and you're going to understand why I'm reading this momentarily. See, I am against you, Gog, the prince of Ros, Meshach, and Tubal, and I shall turn you around, and I shall put hooks into your jaws, and shall lead you out with all your army, horses, and horsemen, clad perfectly, a great assembly with armor and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with the shield and helmet. Gomer and all its bands, the house of Tugamah from the far north and all its bands, many peoples with you, all the bands of Japheth, and some of Ham joining him. But be ready, prepare yourselves, you and your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be a guard for them. After many days you shall be called up in the latter years. In the latter years. We're not talking about the millennial reign here. We're talking about the latter years. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the land, from the sword, and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yashar'AL. Now we understand that this cannot be all the house of Yashar'AL, because all the house of Yashar'AL isn't coming back until after distress. All the house of Yashar'AL isn't coming back till Yahushua comes back and sends his messengers with the sounds of a great shofar, so that the dead in Mashiach will rise, and those of us who are alive and remain will be changed in a moment and the twinkling of an eye, and we'll be caught up with them and there and join the rest who are already in the land and join them in the land after distress. After distress. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I needed to paint that foundation. After many days you should be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many peoples on the mountains of Yashar'AL. On the mountains of Yashar'AL. This is the remnant. This is not all the house of Yashar'AL, which had been a continual waste. But they were brought out of the peoples, and all of them shall dwell safely. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands and many peoples with you. Thus said the Master Yahuwah. These are the nations of the adversary. These are the nations of the adversary. And it shall be in that day that the words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan. And you shall say, let me go up against the land of unwalled villages. Let me go up to those at rest and dwelling safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the peoples, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land, Shabah and Dadan, and the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions shall say to you, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to bear away silver and gold, to take away many livestock and goods, to take great plunder? Therefore, son of man, Nabah, prophesy, and you shall say to God, thus says the Master Yahuwah, in that day when my people Yashar'AL dwell safely, would you not know? And you shall come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people Yashar'AL like a cloud, a remnant of Yashar'AL like a cloud, to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. In the latter days it shall be. This is not the millennial reign. In the latter days it shall be. And I shall bring you against my land, in order that the nations know me when I am set apart in you, O God, before their eyes. Thus said the Master Yahuwah. Are you the one I spoke of in former days by my former servants, the Nabiim, or prophets of Yashar'AL, who Nabah for years in those days to bring you against them? And it shall be on that day On the day when God comes against the land of Yashar'AL, declares the Master Yahuwah, that my wrath shall come up, in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there should be a great shaking in the land of Yashar'AL, reminiscent of Hazun, with respect to the two witnesses. This is that very same earthquake. On that day there should be a great shaking in the land of Yashar'AL, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the Shamayim and the beasts of the field and all creeping creatures and that creep on the earth and all men are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall on the ground, and I shall call for a sword against God and on all my mountains, declares the Master Yahuwah. The sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstones, fire and sulfur on him, and on his hands, and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Reading now the 39th chapter, I'm going to read down to verse 24. And you, son of man, Nabah against Gog, and you shall say, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Mashach, and Tubal, and I shall turn you around and lead you on and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north and bring you against the mountains of Yashar'AL, and shall strike the bow out of your left hand and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Yashar'AL you shall fall, you and all your bands, and the peoples who are with you. To the birds of the prey of every sort, and to the beasts of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall send fire upon Magog, and on those who live undisputed or undisturbed in the coastlines. Undisturbed in the coastline. This is when the beast is destroyed. This is when the beast is destroyed by the fire that proceeds from the mouth of Yahusha. This is when the beast is destroyed. This is the latter days. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah, and I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people, Yashar'AL. And I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people, Yashar'AL. And not let my set-apart name be profaned anymore. And not let my set-apart name be profaned anymore. You're going to understand this as we read the latter part of this book, of this chapter. And I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people, Yashar'AL, and not let my set-apart name be profaned anymore. And the nations shall know that I am Yahuwah, the set-apart one of Yashar'AL, in Yashar'AL. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares the Master Yahuwah. This is the day of which I have spoken, and those who inhabit the cities of Yashar'AL shall go out, listen, shall go out and set fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, the bows and arrows, the clubs and spears. If you know anything about the 444,000, then you understand the 144,000 is a fighting arm. The 144,000 is a rod. At some point, Yahuwah is going to use the 144,000 to fight in this earth, to fight the reign of darkness in this earth. And so it reads here that the cities of Yashar'AL shall go out and set fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, the bows and the arrows, the clubs and spears. And they shall make fires with them for 7 years, and take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest. For with the weapons they make fire. And they shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the Master Yahuwah. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a place for a burial site there in Yashar'AL, the valley of those passing by east of the sea, and stopping those passing by, because there they shall bury Gog and all the crowd, and shall call it the valley of Haman Gog. And those of Yashar'AL buried them for 7 new months, in order to cleanse the land. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the Master Yahuwah. And they shall be and they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, burying those who were passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. Indeed, a great slaughter. At the end of 7 new months, they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land. And when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall set up a sign beside it, till the burials have buried it in the valley of Hamon Gog. And also a city named Hamonah shall be there, so they shall cleanse the land. And you, son of man, thus says the Master Yahuwah, speak to every sort of bird and to every beast of the field. Assemble yourselves and come, gather from all around to my slaughtering, which I am slaughtering to you. A great slaughtering on the mountains of Yashar'AL. And you shall eat the flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of the mighty, drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams and lambs, of goats and bulls, all of them fatlings of Bashan. And you shall eat fat till you are filled, and drink blood till you are drunk, at my slaughtering, which I am slaughtering for you. And you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders and mighty men, and with all the men of battle, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall set my esteem among the nations, and all the nations shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I have laid on them. And the house of Yashar'AL shall know that I am Yahuwah, their Elohim, from that day onward. From that day onward. Well, that's confusing, Zion. If he's already taken us to the wilderness and brought us to the wilderness, and we've seen his magnificent power, how then, how is it that we don't already know that he is Yahuwah Elohim? Because he's not talking about the whole house of Yashar'AL, but now he is. But now he is. Now he is. And the nation shall know that the house of Yashar'AL went into exile for their crookedness. Now he's talking about gathering the rest, because they have trespassed against me, so that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their adversaries, and they all fell by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions, I have dealt with them and hidden my face from them. To give you a couple of more witnesses, and then we're going to shut this down. In 2nd Baruch, the 28th chapter, verse 1 through 8, it reads here, and he answered and said unto me, whatsoever will then befall the whole earth. And we're talking about the distress. We're talking about the reign of darkness. We're talking about the great distress, the great tribulation here, the 3.5 years. We're talking about the time of darkness here. Whatever shall, and how that relates to Hazon, the 3rd chapter, and him saying that he's going to keep the 144,000 from the time of trial. So listen very carefully. For at that time, I'm going to start over. And he answered and said unto me, whatsoever will then befall the whole earth. Therefore all who live will experience them. Therefore all who live will experience them. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those self-same days in this land. Now, if you're a student of the text, you understand here he's not talking about Ashkenazis. He's talking about his people. He's talking about his remnant. He's talking about his remnant who he's going to bring back to the land first. That same 144,000 that we find in Hazon chapter 14 is having touched down on Mount Zion. As having touched down on Mount Zion. Only those who are found in this self-same land in those days. Only the remnant. Only the remnant. And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, that then Hamashiach shall then begin to be revealed. Shall then begin to be revealed. So after the reign of darkness, when the light of Yahuwah, when the sign of the son of Adam cracks the sky, the living menorah, then he will be revealed after the time of darkness. But during that time, his remnant are going to be in the land where it reads here, and I will protect only those who are found in those self-same days in this land. And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those latter parts, that Hamashiach shall then begin to be revealed, and Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time. and then they shall be for food for all that are left. The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape produce a core of wine. And those who have hungered shall rejoice. Moreover, also they shall behold marvels every day. For wind shall go forth from before me to bring every morning the fragrance of aromatic fruits. And at the close of the day, clouds distilling the dew of health. And it shall come to pass at the selfsame time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high. And they shall set it, and they shall eat it in those days, because these are they who have come to the consummation of time. Because these are they who have come to the consummation of time. And Baruch, the final scripture, and to Baruch, the 30th chapter, verse 1 through 5, we read here, and it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the advent of Hamashiach is fulfilled, that he shall return in esteem. Then all who have fallen asleep and hope of him shall rise again. The dead in Mashiach shall rise, and those who are alive and remain shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, and be caught up with them. And it shall come to pass, and this doesn't happen until the final shofar, until the last trumpet, until the end of the tribulation period. This doesn't occur until then. But the 144,000, the remnant, have been taken up out of the earth before now, and have been kept and going to be kept from the time of trial. And these are the ones that are going to be found in the land in those self-same days. And these are the ones who are going to burn those weapons of the adversaries that come against the land of Yashar'AL, his 144,000 warriors. And it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be open, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous. And they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage, and one assemblage, and one assemblage. This is when it's going to happen. This is when the rest is going to come. This is when the rest is going to come. And it shall come to pass at that time that the treasures will be open, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous. And they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage, and one thought. And the first shall rejoice, and the last shall not be grieved. This is when two sticks are going to become one. This is when two sticks are going to become one. For they know that the time has come of which is said, that is the consummation of the times. But if the souls of the wicked, when they behold all these things, they shall waste away the more, for they shall know that their torment has come, and their perdition has arrived. That their perdition has arrived. This is the message for the remnant. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to shed every sin that so easily besets you? Are you going to come out of your complacency? Are you going to push beyond where you've ever pushed before? Go where you've never gone? Be willing to turn your back on everything in this world and make Yahuwah your all, obeying every word that proceeds from his mouth, setting yourself apart even as he is set apart, being a mirror image even as we are creating in his image, even as we are created in his image. Looking in the mirror, if a mirror image, if the person in the mirror raises his hand, the image in the mirror raises his hand. If the person in the mirror turns his head, the image in the mirror turns his head. Thus, so we have to be. We have to do as our Father does. We have to speak as our Father speaks. We have to go where our Father goes. If you're not willing to do that, then this message isn't for you, and you are not for the remnant. So this is the message for the remnant. This is the message for the remnant on this day. And you may be asking the question, well, what about the rest? What about the rest? Well, I know this video's been long, but I encourage you to stay tuned for part 4, a message for the remnant of Yashar'AL. Darkness Comes part 4. What about the rest? What about the rest? So I encourage you to wait and watch the next video, which is coming momentarily. What about the rest? I know this video has been long, but it needed to be detailed. The next part 4, won't be as long, where Yahuwah is going to show us what about the rest apart from the 144,000. So with that, I say, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the children of Yashar'AL, and I myself shall barak them. So be it, so be it, so be it.